My name is Marion Hoffman, and we're sitting in the living room where, on the land where I was raised, on the ranch where I was raised, not in the same house, but where I came to from the hospital, but on this ranch. And it's a great place to connect with the Lord and just to go out into the trees and see His beauty and see how things are growing, and everything is just absolutely a wonderful experience, and I've loved it all my life. As far as Ranchers Church is concerned, which is why Chris is here doing this interview, a friend of my son-in-law and his wife had split, and my son-in-law was concerned about him, and he was telling him, now you know, don't just stay at home, get out, and don't just, you know, kind of closet yourself. And he said, well, I go to church, but he said, you know, I just don't feel like I fit in there. And that thought, when my son-in-law told me that, got me to thinking, and I happened to be peeling potatoes at the sink, and I got to thinking, you know, there's a lot of people around, and especially ranchers, who don't feel like they fit into today's church community. And the thought just kind of went through my mind, somebody should start a rancher's church in these parts, because there's lots of Christian cowboy services, not so much churches, but services here and there and everywhere. So I went on peeling my potatoes, and all of a sudden this thought just leaped into my head, and I know when that happens that it's the Lord with something to say, and He said, you start it. And I said, oh, wait a minute now, that isn't what I had in mind. I had to, you know, that somebody should start one. And He said, you start it. So I told my husband, Lauren, and he had a heart attack just about. But anyway, as he was walking to the barn after this news, the Lord spoke to him about it too, and said, now this is what you should do, and you know, support Marion and just go ahead with it. And we did, and we started out without knowing where we were going to get the musicians. We knew we wanted to have lots of music, and we didn't know where to get the musicians. We knew the kind of music that the Lord wanted us to use. And the best that I could do, in the spring we'd been to a spaghetti dinner at the church that the youth had put on, and we sat with a couple that went, there's once a month a little gathering in Claire's home with bluegrass music, and I remembered that. And so I also remembered her name, which was unusual for me, but I phoned her and I asked if we could get together, and she said, oh sure, come on in. And so we planned a day, and I went in there, and they gave us a whole list of names that were people who could play right around Claire's home. So we got a hold of this list, and the first man that we went to opened the door and said, where's your guitar? and I just kind of was taken aback and said, I don't play a guitar. And so anyway, he said, well, somebody plays something. And I said, well, I play the piano. And he said, well, come on in then. And so we went through and into his living room, and he said, there's a piano, get at it. And so I sat down at the piano, and as I was doing that, he was hauling out his fiddle, and we started to play. And it was a real deja vu for me, because I played with my dad years ago, and he played the same songs in the same way. And to me, that was just a real confirmation from the Lord that this thing needed to go forward. So what were we going to do? So he said that, yeah, he thought he could probably come once in a while and help us out. And that's kind of the answer we got from 2 or 3 people we tried. We had one fellow that we knew quite well, and he said that he would be there, and he was very, very consistent with that. And so I knew that I had him and I had me, although I see myself as a utilitarian singer and a utilitarian piano player. But anyway, I knew we had the two of them. But Lorna and I decided to start out with, it's actually an evangelist, and his wife is a singer. And she has won lots of awards and whatnot, and they're from Red Deer. So we contacted them, and we made an agreement that they would come for a month on the Sundays and get us started. And so they came, the first Sunday they just took over the whole program. The second Sunday, me and my little group very hesitantly played a couple of songs. And we had a person picked as the pastor. He was the assistant pastor of the regular church. And so he did a short thing. And then the third Sunday, we took over what music there was, and we had, it wasn't very long what we did, and the evangelist and his wife filled in and did the rest of the program. And then the last Sunday, we hit it full bore while we still had them to tell us what to do when we got in trouble. And so that's how it started. And through that month, we were what do we want in this service? What don't we want in this service? And we started out with the message at the end. But we found that didn't work very well. And the first message we had was we found far too long for the people that we had in the congregation. So we started with a couple of songs from the Ranchers Band. Then we had the service, the sermon, and then we had another song or two. And then I did a thing that the Lord had told me to do called Barnyard Philosophy. And what I did with that was to connect my agricultural ranch background with what it says in the Bible. And that was extremely easy because the Bible is all agriculture too. And so that was really easy. And just a skeleton of the first one I used, I told the story of an old hen one day when a hawk come through the yard, and she started calling her chicks, and her chicks all went running under her and just lifted. They were pretty good size, and they just lifted her right off the ground, and or almost, and then they spun around to stick their head out and see what the danger was. And I connected that with I think it's in Psalm 91 where he said, I just hide you under my feathers. And just built it out, and so that 10 or 15 minutes is all I do. And then we have musical groups come in, and we have a different group every week for the last half hour, and that works out really well. It keeps the interest up because don't always have the same people. And then we have a fellowship time afterwards, and have a lunch, and Lauren always brings rice pudding, and some of the people that come check to see if he's making the rice pudding, and if he is, then they're sure to come and play. So it works out really well. And just a little aside, one time we weren't there because of our business, and they handed us a petition when we come back that we had to have them rice there, even if they weren't there, we weren't there. So that was a good thing. And we celebrated our 5th anniversary in July,